how we can support them. It's not about showing sympathy, like I said before. It's about showing empathy, showing them that you're present. Now, before we go into it, because I have a very special guest today with me, let's play a quick tune. Nobody loves me better than you. Nobody loves me better than you. That is every child. And that's how every child wants to feel. Now, today, it gives me the greatest pleasure to introduce someone that is so close to me, someone that I've been working with for how long, someone that is a part of the team at Kamara Youth, someone that has an organization supporting people with sickle cell. These are things, like I stated, we need to talk about because it's in our community. It's in our back door, our backyard, in front of our door, across the street from us. We cannot act as though we are not aware of all this that is going on in our society. And we cannot point the finger at somebody else because of what they're going through. I know society has made us to judge others, but again, look at yourself. How would you want to be judged? How do you want people to treat you? How do you want people to engage with you? You know, as a serial entrepreneur, I always say that it's always good to be in an area where when you leave, people will feel it and say, wow, I can't believe this person is going. You want to be that someone when you come into an area, people acknowledge you, people are happy to see you. And I have spoken about this. Neuroscientists had done a test where they focus on the brain. That's what a neuroscientist does, they study the brain. Now, this test that was done, the research, basically states that the more we complain, the more we program the mind to think on a negative aspect. But the more we focus on the positive things, the more we set our mindset to think positive. Now, let me repeat that again while we're waiting for Miriam. We cannot complain all the time because that is making the brain, we are programming the brain to think negatively. If you win £1 million today or $1 million, are you going to complain about it? Of course not. But as soon as somebody does or did something wrong to you, you start speaking ill of that individual. And then what the mind does is that, remember, your mind is like a CPU, central processing unit. So if you keep complaining about all this negativity, you will never get it right. And remember, the energy that you send out is what comes back to you. So if you send out negative energy, you'll bring nothing but negative people around you. Miriam, welcome back.
Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure to have you here.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Tell us, who is Miriam?
Well, Miriam, where do I start? I am a daughter. I am an entrepreneur. I'm a marketing strategist, a business coach. I'm also a mom of twins, a wife. Yeah, so I wear many hats that I switch up all the time. But that is the overall of who I am. But obviously there are depths which we'll get into.
I'm excited. Now, tell us about your foundation, your Sickle Cell Foundation.
So I have a nonprofit foundation called the Dora Foundation, named after my late grandma. The Dora Foundation is for sickle cell support and youth development. So what we do is we support people with sickle cell, so patients and also their families. We support with treatment, advocating, raising awareness, and just also that spreading that awareness within the community, because it's a condition that it physically, the pain may affect one person, the sufferer, but in a whole, it affects everybody around them, because nobody wants to see somebody suffer constantly. So it affects all those around them. So we feel it's very important that we give the support not just to the patient, but to the parent, getting them to understand how they can support their child with sickle cell or their partner with sickle cell, how they can be of support, and the tools, the resources, the knowledge that they need, because we're talking about Africa here. We do work here as well, but also mostly in Africa. Especially in Africa, there are a lot of these stigmas attached to having sickle cell, and it's linked to so many different things, such as like witchcraft, which is something even I myself have experienced as a child growing up in Africa, being told that I was sick as a result of, being a witch, and that I should confess. So imagine at that time, like, I remember asking my grandma, like, how do I make this go away? Praying to God to take it away. So because of those experiences that I had, and that people are still having to this day that have sickle cell, I wanted to play my part in just bringing about changes, positive changes. We go to schools, we raise awareness in schools, we educate, the entire school, so they know how to support that person with sickle cell. We also support youth. We also do youth development. We sponsor community events, sports, we give scholarships, we organize debates and different forms of like extracurricular activities and things that will really help these young people to equip them to deal with the world out there. So that is the overall of what the foundation is about, what we do.
Wow, that is phenomenal. I love people that are making that initiative, taking that initiative to make a difference. Even though you are going through what you're going through, you're able to support other people. You're supporting me as well, and I appreciate that. Now, as far as this sickle cell, your organization, what is it? In case, ladies and gentlemen, please feel free to call in at 07-932-732-851. If you have any questions for Miriam, please engage with us. Again, the number is 07-932-732-851. If you're reaching us from international, hit that little stop button and press that 447-932-732-851, because we would really love to engage with you, and we want you to engage with Miriam. Again, this is Blood Radio. Miriam, so tell us your organization in case people want to support you, in case people want to reach out to you. How can they do that?
Well, they can reach out to us. We do have a website. It is under construction at the moment, but we do have a website, which is the Dora Foundation.org. Dora as in, Dora the Explorer, DORATHEDORA, foundation.org. They can also email the Dora Foundation at gmail.com. And people also can reach out to me directly if, let's say, they have a question, maybe they know somebody or they themselves have sickle cell or anything like that. I'm always pretty open to, anyhow can answer questions, support. So they can also reach out to me through social media, Miriam Kay on all platforms, Miriam, and then Kay on all platforms. Even if you go to space, it's just Miriam Kay. So if they want to reach out and they have any sort of maybe more personal questions that they may feel like, oh, I don't really want to, because sometimes I do get people reach out to me with things like that. And I'm always open to, sharing and using my own experiences, because I get so many messages like that. I also am on YouTube. I try to use my platform to raise awareness, and I've done videos that I've talked about certain things to sickle cell, and I always get so many people reaching out to me. There's somebody that felt like they felt they wouldn't be able to get married. They were too scared to basically tell a partner that they have this condition. They were even ashamed to say it. I also have known somebody whose child has sickle cell, and they were so ashamed. They felt like it was their fault, beating themselves up, and that is nothing to be ashamed of.
Right.
It isn't.
I want us to talk about that. Being that you opened the door, I have been doing my research, so I'm ready for you.
I'm ready to.
When you have a woman, say I engage with a woman, or a woman is engaging with me, I have sickle cell, and they don't have sickle cell. And now we come together, we have a child. What are we going to discover?
All right. So this is where it's very important to know your genotype. It's so important to know your genotype. So when it comes to genotypes and sickle cell genotypes, there are varieties, but the most common ones are SS. Those are the ones that they are full sickle cell. And then you have AS. So they have the faulty gene, but it is not dominant, it is recessive. So AS is when they say, oh, the person is a carrier. So they have traits of it, but they don't suffer the disease, but they can still pass on that gene to their child. And then you have AA. AA is the person who doesn't have any traits of it whatsoever, right? So depending on the genotypes of two different people, the percentage for each child is as follows. So let me use myself as an example. My parent, my mom is AS, my dad is AS. But this is back then, they didn't know, they were never aware, they got together, got married. They had my brother, but even then they didn't know because my brother is also AS, right? So they thought as well they were safe. And then they had me. And then I took the S from my dad and the S from my mom. So I took the two faulty genes. So that made me SS. So when you have two people that have AS, there is a 50% chance that their child will be AS. There's a 25% chance that their child wouldn't have it at all. And then there's a 25% chance that that child will be SS. I am the 25%. But then when it's two, let's say AA, right? That, let's say, for example, you yourself, you don't have anything, you are completely, your genotype is AA. And then that partner is SS, for example, my husband and myself. I'm SS, he is AA. So in that case, our kids, they don't need to be tested even. Before even I have them, they know they're going to be AS. They can only take S from me. I don't have anything other than S. Their dad only has A. So they're only going to take the S from me and the A from their dad. But let's say if my partner was yes, then there would have been 75% chance of our child being SS and 25% chance that that child will be AS. So depending, the percentage changes depending on the genotypes of those involved. That's why it's always good to know. But nowadays, this is not like back in the days. Now they do like genetic counseling. You can find out while you're pregnant. You don't have to wait until you have that child. They can find out now, and also once those parents, they find out during the pregnancy if they haven't yet been tested, or let's say if the father's genotype is unknown, then they will test the baby. Once you find out, they will make you make that choice. But again, sickle cell before and sickle cell now is different. There are, our mindset is, people, thank God society is kind of catching up. There are also management. You can manage it, and all those stigmas of, oh, you can have kids, you can this, you can that, you cannot go to, for example, university, you can't be a career person, you can't do anything with your life. Those things are changing. I know so many people with sickle cell that are doing just as well as those that don't have it. So things are changing. So it is not all doom and gloom. Even if you find out that you are having a child that has sickle cell, it's not like before that, oh my God, this child is going to die before even they're 16, they're this. I know I don't look like it, but I am 32 years of age now, but I am still here. Thanks be to God. Yes, people still do. There are still a lot of risks. I recently lost my best friend who has sickle cell, so it does happen. But again, now people pass away for different reasons, young, old. So it's not the end of the world, even if you do. Let's say you fell in love with somebody and you want to start a family. You can discuss those options now. They have genetic counseling.
You see, thank you so much for explaining. Ladies and gentlemen, I know that some of you don't understand what she was saying, but she was trying to break it down in the medical terms for you to understand. Now, I know many of us used to hear, when you meet someone, make sure that person, do their blood test and so forth. And this is one of the reasons why. Yeah. You to know who you're dealing with, engaging with, not in a negative way, but it's just
just so that and you can plan, you can get counseling, you can get the support ahead of time.
Absolutely. Now, the doctors are not, they're not gods. So they cannot tell you cannot have a child and you say, well, oh, my doctor said I can't. It's been proven that, when it's meant to happen, it will happen. So don't always go by what a doctor tells you, but also you can try other methods of having a child. I'm not in a medical field to say, well, the doctor says this, you have to abide by that. No. Miriam, let's talk a little bit, because a lot of families in our communities have people that they know that have sickle cell. And sometimes when they see somebody all rolled up, curled up, they don't understand what they're going through. Can you tell us some of the triggers, that can cause pain for someone with sickle cell?
When it comes to sickle cell, another thing is what I want people to know. Every person with sickle cell is different. And also everybody gets triggered by different things. I am one of those that get triggered by almost everything. But everybody is different. Our pain experiences are different. The way we cope with pain is different. What works for us when we're in pain is different. We are the kind that when I go to the hospital, when you go to the hospital, the doctor tells you what needs to be done. When I go in, the doctor asks me, what should we do? Because we know ourselves better. And also, we can't all be fit into one box. We have the same disease by name, the same health condition by name, but that is as far as it goes. So in terms of triggers, there's so many different things. And everybody, as I say, is different. This is just personally me, as I say, for me, everything could be a trigger. One of the big triggers, stress. And it's so, it's easy to say don't stress, but this is life, life. I remember growing up, every time I have exams, I'm always sick. And I never understood why, because I love school. It's only when I came over to the UK and the doctor's like, because you stress when you're trying, because I'm that kind of person. I'm a high achiever. I want to always give my best. So of course I'm stressing because number one, I have missed a lot of school when I'm unwell. So now I'm like, oh my God, exams coming up. I'm stressing. But it's so crazy with all of that. I still always like be getting A's. Don't know. But it's just that stress. I remember one time I got so stressed. Day before my exam, I ended up having a crisis, went into hospital. I had to beg the doctors to let me go and do my exams. I went into the school straight from A&E, so from the emergency room straight to school to do my exams. When I went, everybody was revising. My teacher just like, Miriam, just go to the medical room and rest. When it's time for whatever it is you've revised, that's enough. Don't even try add anything else. We just want you to be able to do that. And I remember my final year exams at university, my final one, I literally finished my exam, and as I was getting out, literally collapsed, and I had to go to hospital. And people are like, oh my God, well, everybody's going partying, and I'm in hospital, like injections. But I was just happy, what? It's done. I did it. I actually did this. I completed. At that point, I didn't even care about the results. So stress is a very big factor. And so many things cause stress. Another thing, the weather affects us greatly. If it's too cold, it can trigger your pain. If it's too hot, it also can trigger your pain, because when it's too hot, you get dehydrated. You lose a lot of water. And when you get dehydrated, we get dehydrated, our cells don't have enough, fluid to carry around, and the cells get very sticky. And when they get stuck somewhere, it causes you to have pain there, leading to a crisis. So the weather, so it can be too cold or too hot. And, when you live in the UK, every day, in fact, every hour is a different case. So that is why, for me, I always have to dress very conscious of the weather. The way I dress each day is determined by the weather. I remember one time, this is back when we used to have, the weather report from TV. They said it was going to snow. So yeah, that was the last time I believed the weather, man. I went into school looking like I was going to ski somewhere, and then guess what happened? The sun came out. So I was sweating all day long. I went gloves, hat, everything I had on. I was ready, okay. And even when every time it snows, the school doesn't even call to say, why is Miriam not in school? They know when it's snowing, they're not even expecting me in school, because that triggers my pain. I've never, like, people that play with the snow, and I always love to watch it, but I don't take part in it because that is a trip to the emergency room. So the weather does, and other things as well. And especially like us as women, we have menstruation, and unfortunately, when you have sickle cell, that can be a trigger as well. So there's so many different triggers, and you literally have to be right in the middle. With sickle cell, you can't go this way, that way. You have to be right in the middle. And it's difficult to be, because some of these things, you have no control over the weather. You have no control over stress. There is a natural part of life. So over time, you just learn, and you try your best to do what you can to prevent. But again, 100%, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So even sometimes people are like, oh, well, if the cold affects you so much, why don't you just move to a warmer climate? Yeah, but then if it's too hot, it's also going to get, every time I travel back home, when I go to Africa, I have to always get like fluids, IV fluids. Like when I'm there after the first week, they have to give me IV fluids, because otherwise I'll get really dehydrated and then I'll get sick. That doesn't mean I'm not drinking. I'm drinking all the time. I'm always drinking. It doesn't matter what time it is, middle of the night, I'm always drinking. But when the weather is really hot, your body's losing more water than you can even maintain and keep in. And there's just so much you can drink, no matter how much you love drinking. So there are many triggers, but those are some of the main triggers.
Wow, thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, again, my name is Unisa Kamara. This is Blunt Radio, Saving Our Next Generation. Saving Our Next Generation, it's an event that we have on the last Saturday of every month with 10 speakers to support organizations, charities, and businesses. And we have also had Miriam on there because, as you can see, she's self-aware and she knows what she has to know relating to this illness. Now, Miriam, in case I'm engaging with someone at home who has sickle cell, how can I be of support to this person, or a friend of mine that we don't live together but has sickle cell? How can I be of support?
I think the key thing is understanding. And sometimes it can be difficult for us to express ourselves. There's just so many times you can keep telling people, oh, I'm not well today, I'm not feeling well. You know me already, we have that issue, and you always like, because it just becomes for me so redundant, always saying it. So sometimes I may just close up and just kind of deal with what I have going on. When I get better, I'm back up and running. Everybody deals with it differently. Like I'm one of those people whereby when I'm going through it, all that, like I'm not really that big into, oh my God, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. So even with friends, family, sometimes I just don't tell them that, oh, I'm sick again, or I'm in pain. So I think it's just about understanding. But those around me, they understand now. It's just for me to say hello, you know the voice, and you know, okay. So understanding is key. It's just
Don't
that
you
person
think?
knows, yeah.
I know you're going, but you, the only way we catch on to you is, yeah, through your voice. When you come on that phone, we had that first crack when you hello, like, yeah. But don't you think, instead of feeling or thinking that people are tired of you saying, oh, I'm sick, or I'm not well, I have to go to the hospital, be you. We all need support. If me personally, if somebody cannot be around me to support me, why do I need you? Why do you need to be around me? But if somebody's saying they're going to support you, why don't you let them, Miriam? I'm talking in general and towards you as well.
Yeah, I know. I get this even from my own family members. But for me, I don't want to get into that point on of relying on that support. I want to be, and that's why I say everybody's different. For me, I want to be treated like anybody. When it comes to, even when I was in school, I used to turn down extra time. I used to turn down all of this like extra, rewards or whatever it is that obviously is understandable because of my condition. But I wanted to be treated because the world out there, not everybody is going to have that understanding. And I didn't want to always rely on that. I want to be, if I'm working, the same consequences should apply to me as any other person. And for me, that is how I've been able to cope. It prepares me. And so I'm not, always leaning on my health. I always try to push through. It helps me with my recovery. It helps me to just deal with things. And the more people are like, oh, sorry, sorry, sorry. And then I'm feeling more of it. Whereas for me, so, okay, I'm not feeling well today. All right. What can I do today? Okay. If it gets to
Now,
that point where I need to go to the hospital, all right, let me just go. I'll come, I pick up my kids, I still just try and get on. For me, it just makes me feel normal.
okay. You know, this is about how we can support, because that's what Kamara Youth is all about, saving our next generation. And I think that many of us are fit for purpose. Now, when I ask you, and then you say you don't want to feel a certain way by asking for help, but don't you think we spoke about some of the triggers? Don't you think by you putting a lot of force for you, work on you, is going to create stress and is going to create a trigger? Because some people with, sickle cell, like you, refuse to ask for help and put a lot of workload on them. And people like me just keep giving you the workload, you know, don't you think that's going to create a trigger? But when you say, you know what, I cannot do it, people are not going to look at you in no way. We have to be understanding of one situation. We are supposed to take care of each other. Am I right or wrong?
No, you're definitely right. But for me, it's also, I guess, a coping mechanism. Even when I'm in hospital, they're always asking me, what are you studying? Even though I finished uni donkey years ago, they're always asking me because for me, for example, when I'm in pain, some people taking a rest, lying down, not doing anything helps them. For me, doing something I enjoy, and I know it's crazy, but I enjoy doing work, doing something, So for me, keeping my mind occupied, having tasks to do, it keeps my mind occupied rather than focusing on that pain. It's always been that like that for me. When I'm in pain, I do something, because my mind tunes, it kind of like tune, it doesn't completely tune the pain out, but it kind of put it to the background. So that way I'm not, but when I sit still, let's say I'm in pain, and then I'm not doing anything, the pain gets worse until my mind is focused on something else. And that is why even I have a habit of always, like when I'm in pain, I shake my feet. And I'm always getting people getting me blankets. They think I'm cold. No, I'm not cold. I'm just trying to do something else that my brain will kind of focus on. And that's why they have even like tense pain machine to give your brain something to focus on. So I kind of developed my own TENS since I was a child, before even TENS was a concept. I always, like when I'm in pain, like I shake my feet, and those around me know. But those that are not around me are always getting me blanket. If I'm in hospital, I wake up sweating because they would have covered me with 10 blankets, thinking I'm shivering. I'm not shivering. I'm just shaking now my brain just does it, just my body does it now, like automatic, like involuntarily, I just start doing that. So for me, distraction helps me cope, and having stuff to do keeps me distracted. Otherwise, my brain starts to focus on that pain and then it intensifies. That's why I say it's different for everybody. For me, it doesn't stress me. It gives me something to distract my mind from the pain. Every time I'm in hospital, whenever I'm going into a hospital, the first thing that everybody knows they have to pack: a notebook, a pen, my laptop, charger, because I always have to have something to do. One time I ended up being admitted. I went in for procedure, then I for my blood exchange, but then I ended up bleeding out and passing out. They ended up having to admit me. And the first thing my mom thought is, oh my God, she doesn't have a notebook. My mom had to go and buy a notebook and a pen to bring to the hospital. You would think, right? Oh, let me get her this and that. No, the first thing my mom was worried about, I do not have a notebook. And I am not going to be okay without having a notebook to write something on.
So if you know someone that has sickle cell,
just get to know them, understand what works for them, and that's how you can support them. Understanding, knowing them, specifically what works for them. As I say, everybody, the only similarity we have is that we have a disease with the same name. We all deal with it differently. So understanding and treating that person as an individual, not what you've read on Google. And not even what I'm saying, I'm talking from my own experience. Get to know that individual person and know what works for them.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with communicating with someone.
Of course.
Communicate with that person is going to look at you as you have interest.
Yeah.
Feel like that person is going to feel a certain way. I'm sorry?
I said, yeah, once you communicate, the person will let you know, this is what works for me. Some want to rest. They don't want to be bothered when they're in pain. Don't call me, don't text me, don't do this, don't do this, don't. Some even get upset at the world. I had a friend that was like that. She's in pain. Even if you say good morning, she will insult you. So everybody copes differently.
So by being observant, sometimes, like Miriam said, sometimes she don't want to tell people when she's in pain or when she's going through something. But by you taking the time to acknowledge that person and knowing that person, you're able to support them, not to make them feel less, because they're still the same person that you've been dealing with. So get to know this person. So Miriam, let's go into going into the hospital for, the blood transfusions. Mm-hmm. Whew, I know that can be so tiring. I know that can be so draining. Can you walk us through that? Because
yes, and painful as well.
Sorry?
I said, and painful as well.
Yeah. And, sometimes they say, oh, the only people that go through this is people that have cancer going through chemo. So please tell us about the blood transfusion and why it's necessary.
All right. So there are two different types of transfusions when it comes to people with sickle cell. There is the normal transfusion, which they call top up. So that is just when you're getting blood and it's just going, they're just adding that to the blood that you have, right? That is the normal transfusion that everybody knows. If you have an accident, you have given birth, they give you transfusion when you lose blood. That is the normal blood transfusion. Sometimes we do get that. We do get top up sometimes. Let's say sometimes if our hemoglobin drops percentage, we may get a top up. But what I am on at the moment, and I have been since I had my kids, so that is 6 years. Yeah. Yeah, no, actually, even through my pregnancy, I was on the procedure. It started as soon as I was pregnant. So that's like since 2015, I've been on this procedure. Before that, I was on a medication called hydroxyurea, which they also actually use for cancer. The whole point of hydroxyurea is to build up your baby hemoglobin. And those are like your young cells, because when you are a baby, you make those hemoglobins. That's why, you see babies, they even if they get injured, they get over it very quickly because they have those baby hemoglobin. So that's what that medication does. But they switched me over to the blood exchange. So the way the exchange works is every 6 weeks. For me, everybody's different. Some people are 8 weeks, some maybe every 3 months. So it just depends on how your own sickle cells, your levels are, because it's all the exchange, the process of the entire purpose of the exchange is to reduce the number of sickled cells in your body. So our cells, everybody has the normal blood cells, red blood cells, they are round, just like a circle, so it helps them to move and circulate. But with us, with sickle cell, our own blood cells are like a crescent shape, so like a croissant, or like a crescent shape, or moon kind of half moon shape. So as a result, they stick together, because if it's round, they just move around. But when it's crescent, they just kind of stick together. And that is what causes us to experience pain. And that's why we can have pain anywhere. Sometimes I have pain in my fingers. And it's so hard to explain to somebody that my fingers are hurting, because anywhere that blood flows, you have pain, because the blood will stick together there. But it's mostly the joints for me. Everybody's different. So these sickle cells, the higher the percentage in your body, the greater the chances for you getting a crisis. So this procedure, what it does is it takes, let's say, like 80% of your own blood, that your body is constantly renewing. And the other thing is, the reason why this process has to be repeated constantly, because our body is always rebuilding cells. We're always regenerating cells. So even when they remove cells, your body is regenerating. And normally, the normal, person without sickle cell, your blood will regenerate every 120 days. It breaks down and reproduce. Whereas when you have sickle cell, from 14 days, those cells are dying quickly and regenerating quickly from 14 days. So instead of the normal 120 days, us from 14 days, our cells is quickly breaking down, they're dying and regenerating. So this procedure has to be repeated to keep those levels down and to avoid like really, really serious, like life-threatening crisis. It also helps to protect your organs, because obviously from all what we go through, our organs, they also get damaged a lot through that. So this procedure helps to keep that percentage in a stable form, and to avoid something really, really, severe. So they take out like 80% of my blood and they replace it with donor blood. And so you have two tubes, one that takes my blood out into a bag. And then I have a video on YouTube actually explaining this entire procedure, a video there to just give further information to people if somebody wants to know more. And maybe somebody's listening, watching, and then they may be thinking of it, I do have a very detailed video on my channel, Miriam Kay, on YouTube, where I explain all of this. So they take out that blood in a bag, and then they replace it with blood, with like donor blood. So that I usually get 8 units. So that's 8 bags. So it's not your normal one, you get 1 or 2 units, no. Because they're obviously taking out so much of your blood, it has to equate to what they take out. So I get like 8 bags. And the way the process works it's not a needle, it's a tube. And I have to first go. So 2 days or a day before the procedure, I have to go for a blood test. And this is a pre-EBT screening. So they can get, whatever blood that they're going to be giving me has to match as closely to my own blood as possible, to just avoid complications. So I have to do that. And they'll also get the percentage level before the process. And then once it's finished, so you go, they get the tube in, and usually they'll do it like on sedation. But as I said earlier, I'm a mom and I don't want to be sedated and I can't check on my kids or any emergency, so I do mine only on local anesthetic. And yeah, that is pretty painful because they have to cut to put the tube. And sometimes, because over time as they're doing it, now I have like damage because it's your artery that they have to do it through. And, so I have like some damages. So sometimes they will cut the first time and they can't quite get in. And then they have to do it and cut you again. And you're lying there like literally just like, Lord help me. But if anything to just help me get some time, even if it's just 2 weeks, where I can go on and do something, because when that procedure is finished for the first like 2 weeks, I am energetic, I can get around, do things. And then as time goes on, you start dipping, it starts going down, you get in more pain, and near that by the time you're the end of the 5-6 weeks, Lord have mercy, you're just like in pain. So it definitely does help. And I haven't had any like really serious crisis, especially like chest crisis, which can be really, really critical. I haven't had any like long admissions for like even a week, for God knows how many years, so even if I go in, sometimes I'm there a few hours, overnight mostly, and I'm back home with my kids. So anything really to help for me to be able to spend more time with my kids and do the things that I really love and have a somewhat normal life. For me, that pain, I'll go through that pain of the procedure and getting it done, no matter how, hectic it can be, how painful it can be. It gives me at least a bit of time to just be able to be more strong and be able to do things. So, yeah.
Thank you so much for that. Ladies and gentlemen, again, this is Unisa Kamara on Blunt Radio, saving our next generation. And we have Miriam Kay with us, and we are talking about sickle cell. But before we go into the last question, I just want to acknowledge Pinky. I thank you so much, Pinky, and we appreciate you being here. Miriam, Pinky said that it's about taking your mind off the pain, and a lot of people use hypnotherapy, pain management. So I guess that's another strategy as well to go.
That's definitely something that I would love to explore. If you do know anybody, any hypnotherapist, a good one, please do feel free to reach out to me. My social media, everything is Miriam Kay. And definitely, I always love trying things, not just for myself, but if also I can have that experience and give advice to others, then
Coming
definitely.
up with a book about sickle cell. So in depth, she have doctors that are going to be engaging in this book as well. But we are going, whew, we're running down the line. So we have 5 more minutes. And Miriam, there's so many questions I want to ask that our listeners and our viewers want to know, but I guess we'll have to save that for next time.
Yeah, we'll have to come back another time. It's
Of course.
definitely good. This is something that affects our community. So,
Of
yeah.
course. And that is what we're here to do. So next week, we want to talk about dementia, but one thing that you have stated, and also Pinky has stated, is reference to the mind. You stated that you tend to put the pain in the back of your mind by focusing on something else. And
Yeah.
while you were away, I was trying to expand a little bit more on the mind. What our last question to you, when you're coming home from the hospital, from this transfusion, you're quite tired, you're exhausted, you're hungry. How do you cope, and how do you want people to cope with you without you feeling as though, oh, I don't need, anyone to support me, I'm strong, I can do this? How would you want someone to engage, to interact with you?
When it comes to that, because of the risks involved and also my past experiences, one of the downsides of the exchange, sometimes bleeding, which I've experienced, and we're not talking about like cut yourself bleeding. We're talking about bleeding because this is your artery. And I've experienced that 3 times, twice at the hospital and 1 time at home. And so it was such a scary experience, especially the first time it happened. I literally just went to pee, and next minute there's blood. It was like a crime scene, to the point the person next door in the other toilet, when I was screaming, somebody help me, literally saw me and ran. Maybe they thought somebody stabbed me or something, because the way I was bleeding, to the point I literally, as soon as I was thankfully able to press the crash button, I passed out, and thankfully the doctors, nurses just came and grabbed me. And that day, it was horrible. It even led to me having PTSD and dealing with a lot mentally, because as a result of what happened, it was just such a scary experience. After the doctors told me, like, you were lucky that it happened in hospital. If this had happened outside of hospital, you could have died. And at that point, I just thought my kids. That's all that came to my mind. They were babies at the time. They were literal babies. And all I was thinking is like I could have like left my kids without a mother. And that just triggered something in my mind that led to me having PTSD. And thankfully, with treatment and therapy, I was able to overcome that. Praise be to God. But because of those experiences, now I know that that's not something I joke with. So when it comes to those, once every time I'm having it, that day my husband takes off. Even when I'm in the like literally, I have my hand pressed on. When I'm even in the Uber, I'll be telling them to go slow. When I'm walking, I have my hand pressed on. I have to leave the dressing on for like 2 days. And so everything I do, I have to be really, really gentle. So now my kids are also aware when that I'm coming from there, that they can't be jumping on mommy right now, because literally a sneeze can lead to me bleeding at that moment, because it's still the wound is still open until it closes up, and I bleed so easily. So even my kids understand that. So during those times, all I want is to just be able to rest and have my time, sit down, relax. What I can do sitting down, I'll do, but no sort of physical stuff, because trust me, I don't want to risk my life, or I don't want to go through what I've gone through in the past, like with the bleeding. The other time it was with me and my kids, and I literally didn't know what to do. Thankfully, my mom was on the phone. They were babies, they didn't even know what was happening. And I was on the floor. Thankfully, I done first aid, and my mom's a nurse. She walked me through what I needed to do to press on it. It was just me and two babies at home. So now, after all of those experiences, anytime I have the procedure, my husband has to take off. The workplace knows. My doctors had to write a letter to them so they know that this, I need support that time, because I cannot be at home with me and the kids in case of anything. So when it comes to that day especially, it's just for me to rest. And it's already long enough. I have to lie down for so many hours without moving, because that's how the procedure works. So it's just that understanding. And so that I take very seriously, because I've had really, really horrible experiences in the past and almost lost my life. And I want to be here and see my kids, have kids. And so when it comes to that, I don't joke with that.
But since you opened the door about the bleeding, there are so many things that I'm pondering, so many things that I'm thinking about, so many things I wanted to talk about, because our community are so in disbelief, because they have never encountered such a thing. And it's good for us to bring awareness. And also, blood thinners can affect you guys, and in so many ways.
Mm-hmm.
So also, if you bump yourself, wrong way, that can affect you as well. Mm-hmm. So as much as I love to engage, why don't we do this? Why don't we come back, take a quick break, and come right back? And I'm sure the engineer in the background will play some music for us. Ladies and gentlemen, again, this is Saving Our Next Generation on Blood Radio. My name is Unisa Kamara, and my guest today is Miriam Kay. We'll be right back.
We'll be able to replay the episode like on Blunt Radio.
Back to Blood Radio. My name is Unisa Kamara, and it's a pleasure. We are talking to Miriam Kay about sickle cell, and this is something that, is affecting many people, and so many parents, so many friends don't know how to engage or how to support. But one of the main things in supporting is listening. We have to learn to listen. It's not just to talk. Sometimes you just need to be there, even if that person don't want to talk, but just be there for them. Just your presence, being there, makes a difference. Miriam, welcome.
Yes, sir.
Now, I know we were supposed to be ending the session, but they're loving your conversation. So let's just talk about how, again, people can engage with you, because you're giving so much information. And, one thing we spoke about, we were just talking about, is the bleeding aspect, and also when you bump yourself. Can you take us just a little bit more into that?
Lord, even my kids are constantly, even if I'm just using the knife when I'm preparing food, mommy, be careful. Mommy, be careful, because for me, a little cut can bleed on and on and on. I had my tooth removed and ended up being in hospital because it was bleeding endlessly. Like I was having like cups of blood and losing so much of the blood that I hardly have. So it is so risky when it comes to that. I am always scared of injuring myself. This is the reason that it's shameful to say, but I cannot even ride a bike because I'm too much afraid of injuring myself. Because not just the bleeding aspect, the healing for us is not the same process as everybody. You cut yourself. I can have a little prick and it would take so long to heal. And the worst thing is sometimes if it turns to an ulcer, because we are at high risk of this. Ulcers is not, an ulcer is not just something you have like, in your guts or whatever. Ulcer can be like a leg ulcer. I had a leg ulcer. I remember one time for so long after being hit by a bike, a motorbike years back. And that took so long to heal. I still have the scar to this day. And if one time I was basically, I think I was peeling a mango. I think it was mango. And I mistakenly cut myself while trying to peel this mango. It bled so much. I ended up having to go into hospital because the bleeding wouldn't stop. It just wouldn't stop. So the smallest thing can become so great. So I'm always so careful when it comes to anything, And sometimes I'll just see like blood and I'm like, wait, why am I bleeding from something? But it can be a little scratch. But again, because when you're in hospital, you have like blood thinners, right? Just as you were saying, you can have like blood thinners when you're in hospital. 1 second, Unisa.
Well, basically, Miriam, okay, she's back on. Go ahead, Miriam.
Yeah, so for us, anything can be so great. It can be any little thing with us can result to something really huge. So injuring is, I'm so careful, but sometimes it happens. These are things that you can't really completely manage, and sometimes it does. Sometimes it can get really severe. Sometimes I can manage. So I am always with plasters or band-aids all the time. I have first aid kits around me because I know myself, and the risk of bleeding, because we already, it's hard for us to maintain our own blood. When back home, when anybody's got a sickle cell crisis, you always hear when they talk about giving that person blood. Even I went through that process. So imagine now that one, the little that you have, you're losing that. Do you know how difficult it is, how scary it can be? Because then that may require, top up or exchange, because your percentage is going to go down. So it's very risky. So it's something that we always have to watch out for. And yeah, I always have to treat everything. So I have to be safe with everything. And the way you kind of safety proof your house when you have a baby? Well, that's how I have to do for myself as a grown adult to ensure I don't injure myself, and that can lead to something. So I have to have safety proof for myself as well. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Miriam. See, the thing is that, ladies and gentlemen, again, when someone say, depending on who that person is or what they're going through, if they tell you, I cannot do this right now, please understand. Let's understand the individuals that we're trying to support. Let's understand the person. That person might be going through something that they feel uncomfortable to speak to you about at that point in time. But always let's be mindful, because me dealing with Miriam, I've come to know a strong woman. I've come to know someone that again utilizes her mind to redirect the pain so she can do what she has to do. And Miriam, please tell us about support system. What support system do you have in place, and what support system can individuals out there that don't have someone at home can say, okay, I can pick up a phone and I can have a support system? Please enlighten us on that.
Yeah, so when it comes to support system, obviously your primary support system should be family and friends. But I completely understand not everybody truly can have access to that. Sometimes you may live alone, as I did for many years before I got married. I was alone, but even though I was alone, thankfully I always have my family just a call away. But again, I'm that kind of stubborn person that always wants to be strong. But thank God I have that kind of relationship with my mother, whereby if I really need, even if I need to talk to somebody 2 a.m., I know I can call her. So when it comes to that, I know sometimes it can be annoying. And trust me, when I was growing up, my own mom also explained there were times that I would get so upset and frustrated over the pain and not being able to do stuff like every other person, that I would take that anger out on my mom, my innocent mom, who was just there to support me. So sometimes we may even push those people away, those loved ones away from us, and in a way thinking we protecting ourselves, or sometimes just being selfish and just thinking that why it's not fair. It's not fair. You get to that point, you think like that. I was young once, and there were times I thought like that. It's not fair that I have to deal with this. I never did blame my parents. Of course, I didn't. But with those outbursts, they ended up blaming. My mom blamed herself. She felt guilty, which, thankfully, because of our openness, I was able to understand, and I felt horrible for, her feeling that way. It's not like something that I meant, but it was just a way to just get out all of that I was holding inside. I wanted to be like other young people. I wanted to go out, do stuff, but I was so restricted as a result of my health that sometimes I lash out on those closest to me, and I'm still learning and growing. Nobody's ever perfect. I'm still learning and growing. And sometimes those habits do come back in. But when it comes to support system, primary support system, your loved ones, because nobody knows you better than them. But then if you are in a situation where you are alone, because sometimes people go to study somewhere and they're by themselves, then most of the time, with my experience, when you do have sickle cell, you are assigned to a team, right? A team like hematologist and all of that. So that team, they're there. That team also include like psychologists, because we do go through these things. Mental health is very real, especially when you're living with a lifelong condition and you are trying to navigate through life and all of those uncertainties. You have to deal with those. And so we do, thankful, especially in the UK, we have that. We have those resources and facilities. We have the team the team that is there available, and they're there anytime. We can call and talk to them. So if you do have a team, they're the next spot of call because they know your medical history already. They know how to support you. They know they don't have to start asking you really intrusive questions because they know you already, right? They know how to treat you. As I say, my team, they trust my judgment. If I say I think I can manage my pain at home, they trust my judgment completely because over the years they've gotten to know me. And so that's your team. So your primary, which is loved ones, your team, then comes organization. You have, in the UK, we have the Sickle Cell Society, right? I don't know about other places, but I know in the UK we have that. And I know in America, they have the American Sickle Cell Society, Sickle Cell Organization Society. I know they have something similar. And they usually have branches and they have people there you can talk to. Not just that, they have activities. I remember when I was young, through the Sickle Cell Society, I was able to experience so much. I went on to trips. I did things that I would have never done because we went to camping specifically for people with medical conditions. So you have doctors and nurses there where you know your child is safe and they can still experience these things that they can. I did wall climbing, I did kayaking, so many things that I've never done before, but in a safe environment where my mom knows that there are medical professionals there 24/7. So these organizations, they work with, they are able to give that. I went to award shows, theaters. I had a helicopter ride. So they have all of these things, these resources that sometimes people don't know how to make use of because they don't even know they exist. But please do try and find out about these organizations. They do so many different things. They are incredible. I cannot even thank them enough, for giving me a lot of the experiences as well that I would have never had because my school, to me, my growing up, my school didn't take me on school trips because I was too much of a liability. So I would have to stay while everybody travels on a school trip, unless if it's anything more than a day, if it's overnight, they won't take me. So I felt very isolated. But through these organizations, I was able to have those experiences, but in a safe environment where there were doctors. At any point that I was sick, a doctor, a nurse, somebody was there, and I was still able to have this experience, these activities. So look out for those organizations. Check out, type in sickle cell organizations, whether on Google, whatever, and see what comes up near you. Get their number, call up, see what they have. Some of them, they do so many, even family trips, activities, and things that you can really take advantage of, and that will really help to strengthen you as a person, explore different things, and get to know yourself. Because at the end of the day, you are not just sickle cell. I always say, I have sickle cell. Sickle cell doesn't have me. So there are 3 ports of call when it comes to support. Primary, which is your loved ones, and then your team, your medical team who know you really well. And then outside of that, there are organizations, non-profit organizations that are there to support. So please just do your research. And if you do have any questions, especially if you're in the UK and you want more information on that, you can reach out to me. I'll be more than happy to share what I know with you.
Thank you so much, Miriam. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to an end, but engage with us again on Monday from 7 to 9 p.m. on Blunt Radio. Our objective is to elevate you. Our mission is to make sure that there's always support out there. And as Miriam says, We have Google, which is now many of us is our best friend. So just type on it. And don't ever feel as though whatever you're going through, you are not alone. Don't feel as though you are alone.
There's always support. And even in my own organization, we do have a support line. We actually have a 24-hour support line. So if you are in Sierra Leone, the Dora Foundation, we have a support line that people can call in. They have questions, they want to know anything, we have that. And many other places have that, many organizations do have that. Some of them, even if they don't have a line, they will have a support group. There are also support groups. There's so many things. You just have to really explore what is out there. And if you, as I say again, if you do need any ideas, always, because I partner with people, with organizations from other parts, other countries as well, because if we're all trying to get the same message out there, why not? So sometimes I know there are people that have contacted me from Nigeria. I'm not in Nigeria yet, but I do work with organizations there. So I can always like let them know, okay, this organization, you can get information from them. So that is one thing as well that I love doing, because I can't reach everybody at the same time, but I am always open to working with others.
Miriam says it all. So let's come together. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Unisa Kamara. I'm your number one go-getter, your number one motivator, and your number one youth advocate. We are not afraid to go anywhere to support our youths. We need to come together, as Miriam said, together we're stronger, and together we can make a difference. Let's start a ripple effect by treating each other with kindness. Let's keep that ripple effect by showing each other that empathy, that compassion. Again, my name is Unisa Kamara Miriam. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Unisa, and thank you, everybody. It's been great. I loved it. Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to take you out with one of my other favorite songs.